Welcome everyone to the last week of the course of Fundamental of Econometrics. And in this last week, we have to cover, this is the week 16. And in this week, we have to have an overview of the two very important and yet advanced topic of econometrics. These are kind of two different branches of econometrics. Initially, at the start of the semester, we plan to do a separate 1 week session on each of these branch. However, at a later stage, I realized that it's better to have one lecture each on these two areas of econometrics. Given the fact that it cannot be covered either in 1 week or in one lecture, so it's better to have a lecture on it for an overview, and the time we saved from this, we give it to a topic of the specification error of the regression models that we discussed in very detail in the previous week. So in week 16, we are going to discuss the regression model with cross-sectional data and some of topics and models that are used in time series econometrics. I will be giving one lecture each on cross-sectional and time series data related econometrics model, and I want to clarify this at the start of these lectures that these are in overview. It is by no mean any detailed discussion on any of these models, and this overview will enable you to have some initial information, some very basic informations about these models. Later on, I may be having some more videos in continuation of these course, just as a supplementary lectures to add to these discussion. If someone is interested, they can then continue with further videos in future. I do plan to have that. So in that later videos, I may be then discussing the problems, applying these data techniques in much more details. So for now, for this lecture, I will be starting with regressions models in cross-sectional data. So when we talk about the cross-sectional data, there are a large number of models that could be used, and all of these models could be used in different specific scenarios of econometrics model. All these models could be used in specific data relevant issues in specific context. So before going for any kind of models, let me present you an overview. In this overview, I use the classification that has been used by the book Econometrics by Example by Dominic Gujarati, although this classification may be slightly disagreed, but still I'm going to use that. So qualitative response regression models, that's the first category. Under that, we have dichotomous binary outcome variable models. Within that, we have linear probability models and binary logit and probit models. Then within qualitative response regression model, the second category is multinomial outcomes based model or multichotomous models, regression models. Within multinomial regression models, we have first one multinomial models, and the other one is probit models. Then within multinomial logit and probit models, we have certain variation such as multinomial mixed logit model, multinomial conditional logit model, and nominal multinomial logit model. So we're going to see that what are these very shortly. We also have ordered regression models. Then we have hierarchical choice models. And then we also have within hierarchical choice model a nested logit model. Just I took one example. Then we have a limited dependent variables model, regression models. Within limited dependent regression models, we have censored model. In censored model, Tobit model is the famous one, so we will slightly touch that. We are going to talk about truncated sample regression models, and finally there are count data models which include Poisson model and negative quantitative binomial models. There are some more in count data models as well, but we will be more mainly focused on these models. So this is pretty much the overview of the major cross-sectional data models. This is by no means the complete models. All listed model that are used in cross-sectional data is a small or you can say pretty much the more major important models that are used in cross-sectional data. So now I will be discussing each of them one by one and ignoring the too much technical jargons and detail of all that for the reason I explained earlier. So let me start with the first one, which is the qualitative response regression model. So quantitative response regression model. So the regression models under these headings involve the regression models which use the dependent variable as a variable which is measured on a nominal scale. All the models that follows this kind of particular situation in which the dependent variable is measured at a nominal scale comes under the domain of qualitative response. A nominal scale is a scale that is the basic version of all the measurement scale used in scientific research. Nominal scale is a qualitative scale. It just divides the data into distinct groups without having the consideration for any rank or interval or absolute zero presence. So any regression model that's involved with dependent variable measured on nominal scales are or can be classified under the heading of qualitative response regression model. Now there are a number of models within this particular category. We will be mainly discussing the simplest models. These simplest models are the binary or dichotomous dependent variable models or dummy dependent variable model. Binary refers to a case where you have two possible values. Dichotomous is also the same thing, and dummy variable we also already know that it has a possible value of 0 and 1 only. So now we are going to discuss we will be going to discuss very shortly a special case of qualitative response regression models in which the qualitative dependent variable having only two possible value, either 0 or 1. Now before going there, I would like to add some background. I will start with a basic model. This model is yi being function of x2 and x3. Y is regressed from x2 and x3, and we have beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, the relevant coefficients that have to be estimated from this particular regression model. So if the dependent variable is binary in nature, we says that the dependent variable will have a value 1 or 0 only. Now having said that, we have this model with y being the dependent variable or binary variable. The first question that we can place is, can we estimate this model using the ordinary least square method that we have been discussing throughout this course? And if we do so, what happens then? What are the consequences of doing such thing? So to start with, we say that when we apply ordinary least square method to a model, we obtain the predicted value of the dependent variable. And given that the dependent variable in this particular case is either 0 or 1, we would be expecting that our values obtained from the OLS estimation will give us the value of a predicted value of y between 0 and 1. That what we will be expecting, because the regression after being fit to the data and after the prediction do predict the value of the dependent variable. And in current case, since the original value of y is 1 or 0 only, we would be expecting more or less the same values for the dependent variable from this case as well. However, that's not always the case. But before discussing that why this doesn't happen, we should note this, that since the value of y is expecting to be between 0 and 1, we call such kind of model linear probability model. So it's a kind of like you are predicting the probability of the dependent variable, because the dependent variable is 0 and 1, and the probability will lie somewhere between that, and that's what our expectation is as well. So we called such kind of model linear probability model. Now that was our expectation, that the predicted value of dependent variable from this OLS estimation will be between 0 and 1. In practice, there is no guarantee that linear probability model will predict the Y value between this range. And that's not only problem when you apply OLS to a model that dependent variable having a value of 1 or 0, or if it's a binary variable. This is not the only problem with linear probability model. Some other problems that I have listed here include, the first one I already explained. The second issue with these kind of model, linear probability model, assumes that the probability of the outcome and the explanatory variables moves linearly together. And it doesn't matter that how much small or large are the explanatory variable values. That's not the case with a reality. The probability may be moving more or less rather than being just linear, while the value of explanatory variable moves in large or in small values. So in simple word, this linearity of the link of the dependent variable and explanatory variable being linear only is not realistic. It may be small or large depending upon the moment and the values of the explanatory variable. Then we also have another issue, that the usual assumption that the error term is a normally distribution cannot be hold true, because the dependent variable from which we do obtain the error term, remember the error term is equal to original value minus the predicted value of the dependent variable. So if dependent variable is only 0 and 1, what do you expect about the error term? Dependent variable is following binomial distribution, so error term for sure would not be normal. And this further lead to the problem of heteroscedasticity as well, since the error term only is being obtained while the predicted value of y being subtracted from 0 or 1 only. There will no more be homoscedastic, and when the homoscedasticity assumption violated, we already discussed in detail that the traditional significance tests and then afterward the statistical inference doesn't hold true. So in very simple word, having a model in which the dependent variable is a binary response model, and if we apply the linear probability model, or we estimate that model through ordinary least square method, it's affected by a number of problems which we just had discussed. And because of all these problems, the linear probability models are not practically used model. Although that exists in theory, it's not used practically. So what we do then in practice, we use the logit model. Before going for logit model, let me show you a little bit of the background of the logit model, and then we discuss what is logit model all about. So as I said, that the linear probability models has a number of problems. So the logit model was introduced to solve that problems of linear probability models. These models, the logit model, predict the value of y within the range of 0 and 1. So the major issue with the linear probability model was that they were unable to restrict the value of the dependent variable between 0 and 1. So that restriction has been imposed through introduction of the logit model. The logit model by default set these value within this 0-1 range. So that solved that complex problem. This restriction is done by the use of logistic distribution for these models, and the regression for that reason is called the logistic regression or the logistic model or the logit model. In very simplest word, logistic distribution, or the use of logistic redistribution in logit or logistic regression ensure that the predicted value of the dependent variable will remain positive and will be within the range of 0 and 1. And it also important to note that the logistic regression model by definition is a continuous distribution, and it look like a normal distribution. So in other words, the problem of the linear probability model, that its values of predicted dependent variable may exceed the limit of 0 and 1, could be negative or greater than 1, which is in conflict with the basic probability definition. This logistic regression model do answer that problem by restricting the value of the dependent variable within the 0-1 limit. And given that the logistic regression look like the logistic distribution look like the normal distribution, so the adaptation of that for these models automatically ensure the assumption of normality for the dependent variable, and at the same time that problems of hetero and all these issues has been solved as well. So there are some technical jargons being associated to it, through which I will be going very quickly. As I said earlier, this is an overview rather than the detailed discussion on the logit model, but given that we have to build our other discussions of qualitative response model based on this understanding, so there are a little bit details about it. So in logistic model, we say that the outcome of a decisions depend on an unobservable utility index. So we say that when we take a decision that I select something or I do not select something, that's 0 or 1, then depend on certain utility, and that utility is unobservable, and we can say that we can name that unobservable utility as I, and I call it I steric with subscript I. So let's say if an individual 1 select something, so we say that he obtained the utility I steric 1 subscript 1, and similarly if an individual 2 select that alternative, so he obtained the utility I steric 2, and third individual select alternative, he does not select, he just say that it's no for the choice. So in that case his utility will be I steric 4, and so on. You can think of more continuation of this kind of data. B refers to the coefficients and X refers to the characteristics of that individual or the situations which do prevail. So we say that the person utility index I exceed the threshold level I steric, the dichotomous outcome will be y is equal to 1, and if it's not, y is equal to 0. So to put it more simply, we say that there is some unobserved utility index, and an individual will select that particular choice, or that will make a decision yes if his utility is more than that unobserved utility, and he will say no if his utility is lower than its original utility is lower than that.
So therefore, we say that yi is equal to 1 if that unobserved utility index is greater than 0, and it indicates the yes option. And similarly, yi is equal to 0 if I steric less than 0, or that unobserved utility index is less than 0. So that's for the no option. In now for the probability of yi could be obtained as probability of yi is equal to 1. That's we have the dependent variable equal to 1 if the probability of the unobserved utility index is greater than 0. So the individual will select alternative 1, or he would say yes for his choice if the probability of the unobserved choice is greater than 0. Probability of that person to select the choice 1 would be y is equal to 1. So we can write this slightly differently. We can replace the value of I steric with the bxui as we defined earlier, and we can place that in the equation. So that make it probability of yi is equal to 1 is equal to the probability of within bracket bxi plus ui, and that's greater than 0. Or it could be rewritten as if we move this bxi on the left side of the equation, so that become minus bxi, and ui is as it is, this inequality. So this probability is the case when y is equal to 1. So we say when the probability for yi is equal to 1, that means that the probability of the error term is greater than or equal to minus bxi. We can do similar kind of technical equation for the case when the y is equal to 0, and that's shown here in the box, that the probability for yi is equal to 0 is equal to the case when the unobserved utility index is less than 0, and then replacing that I static subscript static with this value, and you can rearrange and you can find that ui is less than or equal to bxi when the probability of yi is equal to 0. This gives us a second equation, and this one is the first equation. So these two equations, this is for the probability of y is equal to 0 and probability of y is equal to 1. If we move to the next slide, we can see if we take this case that the probability is symmetric around the 0. That means that you say that the probability of selecting and not selecting is equal. So in that case, we can write that the probability of yi is equal to 0 is equal to the probability of yi equal to 1, or we can compare that two equation we just obtained, or the two probability we just obtained, the probability of yi is equal to 0 and the probability of yi is equal to 1. So we can compare these two. So based on that comparison, we can just write yi greater than or equal to minus bxi is equal to the probability of ui greater than bxi. To take it further, pi is equal to probability of yi is equal to 1. This equation implies that the probability is equal to probability of yi. So pi represent the probability of yi for a choice 1, that is equal to ui. You can write this one or this one. It's just the same thing if we assume symmetric probability around 0. So this all lead us that if we assume that ui follow a cumulative probability distribution and we approximate it through logistic regression, then we can write that the probability of yi equal to 1 as pi is equal to 1 over 1 plus e minus zi, where zi is equal to bx plus ui. This is a logistic probability distribution. So we replace that, we model that the probability of yi is equal to 0 with a logistic probability distribution. Now we can place this bxi plus ui instead of zi, but before going there, we can also do the same for the probability of yi is equal to 0 as 1 minus pi. So if the probability of y is equal to 1 is pi, then the probability of y is equal to 0 is 1 minus pi, because pi probability of yi equal to 0 and plus probability of yi is equal to 1 should be equal to 1. So if I put it that way, yi 0 and yi 1. If I take the probability of these two, by definition, this should sum up to 1. So that's exactly indicated here, pi and 1 minus pi. You add them, you get pi. So the probability of having yi is equal to 1 and probability of y is equal to 0 is equal to p. So for p, we get 1 over 1 plus e zi, because here if you look at here, it's without negatives sign, so that's the difference. Now we can take the ratio of the two probability, which is called the odd ratio. So remember this term, odd ratio. Odd ratio refer to the ratio of the probability of success divided by the probability of failure. So if I take the odd ratio, here there is a lot of equations reflected at once because I wanted to put it on one slide. So I just started with the very left hand side. Pi is the probability of y is equal to 1 divided by the probability of y is equal to 0. So that's is equal to, we divided 1 over 1 plus e minus zi divided by 1 over 1 plus e zi with plus sign, and the previous one was with minus sign. So when you add them, when you divide these two, you get 1 plus e की power zi and 1 plus e raised to the power minus zi. With a little bit of the simplification, we at the end find that pi into 1 over minus pi, or the odd ratio, is equal to ezi. So that's the final finding from it. So we can extend that a little bit more. We say that the probability of yi is 1 divided by the probability of y is 0 is equal to ezi, or the probability of odd ratio in the favor of having success is equal to e raised to the power zi. Now if we take the log of these two sides of the equation, we can write it as Li, where Li is the log of odd ratio, the log of odd ratio pi over 1 minus pi, and that is equal to ln of pi over 1 minus pi, and this is equal to, as we know that log and exponential are reciprocal to one another, so we at the end are left with just zi, and zi is equal to bxi plus ui. So at the end we got the equation Li is equal to bx plus ui, where Li represent the log ratio of the probability and bxi plus ui represent the coefficient and the explanatory variable and the traditional error term we used to have in the regression model. So Li, as I told you, is called the logit, or the log ratio of the the log ratio of the odd ratio in favor of having the success. So this is called the logit model. This was the technical detail, and as I told you perhaps at the start, or if I haven't, so you may not take a note of it. Technical detail, although you need to know that there is a background, mathematical background associated to it. However, we may ignore that technical background from this review, and you can straight away focus on the uses of logit model, that what are various characteristics of the logit model. So the first important characteristics of logit model is that its probability goes from 0 to 1 as the logit goes from minus infinity to a plus infinity range. So that's a very interesting characteristic of logit model. Earlier we saw that the linear probability model has this limitation that it can predict the probability out of bound, that's within 0 and 1 range, and violate the basic probability characteristics. However, logit model ensure that these values of probability of y, or the predicted value of y, remain within this range as the logit or the odd ratios moves between minus infinity to plus infinity. So that's overcoming the problem of the linear probability model. The other issue with linear probability model was that the probability of predicted values was not moving non-linearly. It was mainly moving linearly with the probabilities, but logit do address these issues as well, that logit doesn't move linearly with the explanatory variable. And then there are a few more things which you need to know, that the explanatory variable increase or decrease shows the increase and decrease in the odd ratios of the outcome rather than the dependent variable itself. So this is important because in normal linear regression analysis, we used to interpret that if x increase by 1 unit, y respond by beta associated to x units. However, in the logit model, the change in x brings the changes in the odds of the outcome. If x increase and it's have a positive sign, so the odd of having the dependent variable or having the yes ratio would increase in favor of having yes compare or having success compared to the failure, so and vice versa. So this is the interpretation, pretty much the same thing I have just said. The slope coefficient shows how the log of odds in favor of the outcome change as the value of x value variable change by a unit. So it's a different interpretation than we used to have in linear regression models. So once the coefficient of the logit model are estimated, we can easily compute the probabilities of the outcome. Now the interpretation in terms of log odd or log of odd ratios is not very intuitive or very easy to understand and get sense out of it. So mostly econometricians address this issue by calculating the probabilities of the outcomes. For that, they need to estimate what they call marginal effects. In linear probability model, we get these marginal units very easily. We just say that change in one variable bring that much change in dependent variable, keeping all other explanatory variable constant. However, it's not that straightforward in logit model. In logit model, the effects of change in one explanatory variable will bring some change in y variable, but that does not depend only on the coefficients of the variable. It also depends on the probability from which the change is measured. So the calculations of the probability is not that straightforward. eView software does not provide the probability calculation for these models. However, Stata do it by default. So I would advise, if someone wants to use this model, to use Stata for estimating these models and calculating its probability rather than using eView's model, eView's software. So the probit model is associated with a logit model. The only difference is that in the probit model, instead of using logistic probability distribution, the error term follows a normal distribution, and the theory is pretty much the same. I wouldn't go for the technical jargons and details of the logit of the probit model. Instead, I will just go for the comparison that the logit and probit are in principle same. The major difference is that the probit follow the normal distribution compared to the logit model that's based on the logistic probability distribution. So that's the major difference. The other difference is that in logistic regression we have slightly flatter tail. So that means that the probability approaches slower to 0 and 1 in logit compared to the probit model. So that's that's not that big issue. Mostly researcher prefers logit model over probit model because it's mathematically simple and also easy to estimate. It's not a very extensive, computationally extensive technique to apply. So that's why researchers and econometrician follows logit model. Okay, so the background of logit and probit has been discussed pretty much in detail. So let me go back to the main slide, and we were having the overview of all the cross-sectional model. So now once we have the logit and probit model and the linear probability models, now let me move to the multinomial outcomes model. That's the second categories of qualitative response regression model. So let me move to multinomial outcome model. So multiple regression models, the background, this is the extension of the binary choice model which we have just discussed. In this particular models, the individual have more than 2 choices, and we say that these choices are discrete in nature, which mean that the choices are made in integers. By discrete we mean you get it with interval rather than a continuous that take all possible values within a certain range. So in this particular cases, then we can't use the binary choice models because the choices now are more than 2. So we look forward to use multinomial regression models. So multinomial regression model assume independence of irrelevant alternatives. So that's a very important assumption of multiple regression models, that the 2 alternatives shouldn't be irrelevant. I will give you the example of that once I quote some example of multinomial regression model. So a very interesting example of multinomial regression models are the transportation mode choice decision, in which an individual can pick among a number of alternatives for his or her travel decision. For example, an individual can make a choice to travel by car, bus, rail, or bicycle. So similarly, you can think of a choice of a presidential candidate. For example, the three major political parties in Pakistan and their presidential candidate, that how a presidential candidate would be selected from these three parties. And then you can think of choice for university by a student among a number of universities being available. Then the choice of job, that if a person do work, if it's a work part-time, full-time, or the person prefer not to work at all, or you can think of buying a car choice among a number of brands being represented by different countries. So these are all choices, and an individual have to face a choice among these alternatives, and the individual, based on his or her level of satisfaction from each choice, select a particular alternative and go with it. The irrelevant from independence from irrelevant alternative mean that you do not place certain choices that's irrelevant from one another. For example, in transportation choice, if I introduce a blue bus and a green bus, which both the buses are same by all aspect except their color, in that case I will be introducing an irrelevant alternative in my choices, because now the individual will have car traveling by blue bus and traveling by green bus, which apparently both are same, then rail, and then bicycle. In this case, I introduces an irrelevant alternative. So the multinomial regression model assume that the choice set is free from this kind of irrelevant alternative. There are tests about it, that how you can do check for it. However, in this overview, we will be ignoring pretty much these details. So let me move now. There are different versions of multinomial regression model. If we consider a nominal or unordered multinomial models, do remember that now we are discussing a case in which an individual have to make a choice among number of alternatives. These alternatives are more than 2 in number, and these are unordered. There is no specific order of the choices. So let's start with a simple transportation mode choice decision, in which there is a nominal, we are going to use a nominal multinomial regression model, because there is no particular natural order among the various options. So in principle, we can assume 3 different types of models under multinomial regression model. The first kind of case is when we have a case when we have individual specific data. What does individual specific data mean? I'm going to tell you shortly, and then we may have a case in which we have choice specific data, and then we may have a case in which we have both multinomial regression model for individual and choice specific database. So based on these individual choices, individual or choice or both specific data, we are going to use different multinomial regression model. Why we are considering 3 different versions of multinomial regression models? The reason is that all these 3 types of data are quite different from one another. I will give you shortly an example. So let me start with the case of nominal multinomial logit or nominal multinomial Prophet models. These models are used when we have the individual specific data. What do we mean by individual specific data? Let me explain it through the simple example of transportation mode choice decision. For example, we are looking into a data in which individuals are making different choices among 3 mode of transportation, namely car, train, and bus. And we have to use we have the data available about the individual travel, age, and gender, income only, and we do not have any data about the choice of the mode of transportation. So for example, if I take example, for example, I would say that I have individual 1 who have to make a choice that either select car, train, or bus. So I would say he selected car, and then we know that his age was 40. We know that that person was female. We know that his income was 10K, and so on. Right? Now we have individual 2 who go by train, that person was 50. He was male and his income was 5K. So we have this kind of data. In that case, we say that it's individual specific data, and this is the case where we should use nominal multinomial logit model, and we can also use nominal probit model as well. And in these models, what we do, we try to get the probability of selecting one of these mode of transportation while controlling for age or gender or income or some other socio-economic characteristics of the individual. So in principle, these kind of model help us to know that how the probability of selecting car would change if a person age change or income change or gender change, and these kind of different changes in the probability. So these models, this is important, the regressor vary across the individual. So here, if we look at the explanatory variable, this is the choice variable, so I would call this y variable, and all these are x variables. So if you see, these x variable change as you move from individual 1 to individual 2. These alternatives, these values changes. So that's why we say the regressor's value varies across individual. In competition to individual specific data, we have another models which we call conditional logit model that are used for choice specific data. And now in choice specific data, if I take that same example of transportation, we say that, for example, individual 1, now he has 3 choices: car, train and bus, and we say that this person now has the travel time. So the car would take 10 minutes, the train would take 2 minutes, and the bus would take most probably 20 minutes. We also have some safety data, for example, that a car is very safe. So now we have two individual 1 and individual 2, and individual 1 have 3 choices: car, train and bus. Similarly, individual 2 have also 3 choices: car, train and bus. And this is the travel time for their trip, that individual 1 took 10 minutes if they take it by car, and took 2 minutes if he take it by train, and 10 minutes if he take it by bus, the same trip. Similarly, the car selection for his trip by individual 2 would take him 50 minutes, train would take 20 minutes, and bus would take 100 minutes. And then their ranking, that how safe is the travel by train as per individual 1. He measured it on a scale of 1 to 5. So he measured the car absolute safe, the train lesser safe, and the bus even worse. So this is the few safety ranks as per that individual. Similarly, individual 2 do the same thing as well. So now in these kind of models, we have the data on the choices, but we have no data that how the individual, for example, if the individual 1 who is going to ultimately use the train, we don't know that this individual 1 was male or female, or if he was having certain income level or age group. Similarly, if individual 2 who took car, we don't know what is his individual characteristics. So this is called choice specific data. In choice specific data, we use conditional logic or conditional probit models, and these models help us to answer how do the characteristics or features of various alternative choices affect the individual choice among them. So how the travel time affect the choice of the individual to select a particular mode of transportation. And as we can see that here, the regressor vary across alternative. So the regressor do not remain the same across the alternative, it do vary. The explanatory variable here are travel time and the safety, so it varies across the choices. It was not the case when we were looking into the individual specific choices. There, the regressor were varying across the individuals, but the choice, the travel time, safety and all these remain the same. Now, we think of the third case in which we use mixed multinomial multinomial regression model, and now you can guess very rightly that this is the combination of having the data. When you have the case, when you have both individual specific and choice specific data, then you use mixed multinomial logic, and these help us to do that how the characteristics of individuals and features of various alternative choice affect the individual choice among them. These are mixed logic model are appropriate for a number of cases in which we have the data for both for the individual specific and the choice specific kind of data. Having said that, a very summary about the multinomial outcomes of cross-sectional data and within that qualitative response regression model. Now we have covered the logit and probit models and binary logit model, binary probit model, and then extending that to multinomial outcome with the nominal multinomial logit or probit, or then conditional logit or probit, and then mixed logit and probit. And for the same reason we explained earlier, logit are prepared over probit model. The next group of models are the ordered regression models. So the ordered regression models are also used extensively in social and medical sciences for the discrete response categorical variables, but these variables are ordered or ranked. So instead of now we are considering instead of having non-ordered choice decision, now we are considering a case where the choices are ordered or ranked. For example, in labor market studies, worker can work full-time, part-time, or not work in the labor force. So here, along with having grouping among the workers, we also have certain kind of ranks. You can also think of certain different example. For example, corporate bonds are ranked as B, B plus, A plus, A plus plus, and each higher rank denote higher credit worthiness. So there's also a kind of ranks being involved with these scaling. Similarly, in these kind of model, in these kind of data, when your dependent variable is a rank variable, you cannot use the interval scale or ratio scale variables because these are ordered scale variables. So for that we have to use some different regression analysis. We can't treat them as an interval scale or ratio scale, neither we can't treat them as a nominal scale variable. So we can't say that the difference between a full-time work and a part-time work, or between part-time work and no work, is the same. So these variable, the ratio between any category here may not be practically meaningful, and for these we use what we call the slope coefficient of the X regressors. In these are same in each category of these model, only their intercept cutoffs are different. That's why we use ordered regression model, and it's also called a proportional odd model. So from this slide, the take home is that when you have the ordered or ranked dependent variable, you are going to use ordinal regression models rather than linear regression model or a multinomial regression models. Then having ordered regression model, I can introduce you to another kind of model which I will call hierarchical choice model, and within that I would talk about nested logic model only. This is the case when we sometimes have to make a decision among more than one choices at the same time. We have one choice being dependent on the choice of the previous step. So an example could tell this story much betterly. I took this from my own study. So this is an example of leisure activities in which an individual have to make a choice between two destinations for his or her recreational trip. The individual may go to beach or no beach destination, and once the individual make this binary choice, then he have a multinomial choice that either that person go by car, bike, or train. So this is a classical example in which you can use a nested logic model, in which the choice of selecting, for example, when we say that the individual will go by bike, that depends that first he make a choice. So, or we can come from here that the individual first make a choice that he will go to the beach, and given that he go to the beach, he will select bike. So that's the case that the probability of going by bike, given that individual make a choice that he will go to the beach. You could have more choices here as well, for example, or within here you could have, for example, park, or he can go to visit family and friends. So that make it more complex choice. And then given that he go to park and family, friend and family, then you can think of these choices, the three choices, and similarly here the three choices as well. So all these kind of models are possible in these kind of analysis. So having a nested logic model, let me go back to the qualitative response regressions models. We pretty much cleared that models. Now let me move to the another category of models under cross-sectional data. These are called limited dependent variable regression models. Within that we have censored model and truncated sample regression model. So let me quickly go through these as well, given that it's in review or overview. So censored and truncated data. A small background. When we think about logit and probit model, we said that the dependent variable have a possibility of having 0 and 1 value only. And we also know that in these kind of models, we can find the probability if a person will make a decision yes or no, keeping in mind is her socioeconomic characteristics. For example, we can think of an individual will buy a car or he will not buy a car with his given socioeconomic conditions. And now, let's say we have data of about 1200 people, and some of them do buy a car while some of them do not buy a car. And then we are concerned with the question, if we just are concerned with the question that an individual will buy a car or not buy a car. So that's answered through logit and probit. But if we are concerned with a question that how many car a person will buy with the given socio-economic condition, for example, if we are interested to formulate a demand function for a car from this particular data, in that case, if we look into our sample, this is hypothetical case. So if we look into our sample and we find this that we have just 200 individuals who bought a car, and the remaining 1000 didn't buy a car. So in that case, what we do, can we formulate a demand function for car using just that 200 individual data only who bought a car, while ignoring the remaining 1000 individuals who didn't buy a car. And then if we formulate such kind of demand function based on just 200 observation while ignoring that 1000 observation from the given 1200 observation, would that demand function would be really reliable? So we said that this is the case or classical case of censored sample. Censored sample. This is a censored sample because we are unable to observe the dependent variable values for all the explanatory variables of all explanatory variables. Or in other words, we have the data of 1200 individuals, all their socioeconomic characteristics, but we have only 200 people out of that 1200 who are buying a car, while we are unable to observe the remaining 1000 who did not buy a car, their dependent variable. So to put it more formally, we say the censored sample or data is a case in which the information on the regressant, that's the dependent variable, is available only for some observation but not for all, although we may have information on the regressors for all the units in sample. So that's the case when you have the data of dependent variable for just limited number of observation, not for the entire sample. we also have another concept which we call truncated sample. In truncated sample, information on both the regressed and regressors are not available on some observations. So you are missing both the dependent and independent, both variables, having some observations without these information. So in sensor data, we say the censoring can be of three types: left censored, right censored, and left and right both censored, depending upon if the dependent variable can take a value, cannot take a value below or above or within certain upper and lower limits. So this is the cases of censored data and truncated data. And what it is now, the censored regression model, the famous one is a Tobit regression model. And as I told you, I wouldn't be going into much detail. However, to quickly tell you, the Tobit models is based on for the censored regression model, and these models are based on maximum likelihood function. Maximum likelihood function is based on a simple logic that a function is generated, the likeliness of or the occurrence of an event, and based on that they make a function which we call likelihood function, and within that likelihood function we maximize that and we obtain our estimates, and this Tobit models are used for censored regression models. And then for truncated sample regression model, we have what we call truncated regression models. These two models are used for truncated and censored sample. These are the popular one. However, for practical reasons, the Tobit models are more efficient, so that's the preferred model for using in truncated and sample data. This was the overview of Tobit and truncated regression model. Again, I would emphasize is the point that we are looking into it just to get familiarized that there are certain kind of models that are used in certain specific contexts. We are avoiding deliberately the technical details and the practical applications of these models because it's the beyond the scope of your course and beyond this level. It's just an introduction to some of the models that are used in the cross-sectional data. Finally, in cross-sectional data, we have count models. In count models, that's pretty much straightforward. We have the cases in which we have the dependent variable being measured or as a count of something. For example, you can think of number of patients visiting a dentist, or number of patents being filed by a particular firm, or number of traffic violation, number of deaths because of coronavirus, or number of fatalities because of the road accidents. All these are counts variables. So in these kind of models, if you have a dependent variable as a count variable, you model these through a number of models. The more popular ones are Poisson regression and negative binomial regression. In Poisson regression, the model is based on Poisson probability distribution. The major characteristics The major characteristic of Poisson regression model is that it is based on having equality between the mean and variance. However, Poisson regression do influence with over dispersion, a case where variance is greater than mean, and under dispersion, a case when variance is less than the mean. There are certain tests available for it that do check these weaknesses of Poisson regression, or these assumptions of Poisson regression. In alternative to Poisson is a negative binomial regression model that do address that of the limitation of the Poisson regression, and that can also be used. So negative binomial regression model and Poisson regression model, in summary, are the models that we use when our dependent variable is a count variable, and these models kind of help us to know the count with controlling for a number of explanatory variables. So this was a very quick overview of cross-sectional data models that are used in the in econometrics. These are not extensive or by any way complete overview. It's just the models very briefly touched that are used or that are discussed in your textbook. But it's beyond the scope of this level. Qualitative response model, we started with this and we covered the linear probability model and then binary logit and probit model. Then we extended that to an outcome. When we have more than two outcomes, then we use multinomial outcome. Within that, we thought about multinomial conditional logit, conditional probit, mixed logit, mixed probit, and then nominal multinomial logit and nominal multinomial probit models. We also said that when we have a choice variable as a dependent variable, but when it's representing some order as well, then we use ordered regression model. And then if we have more than two choices, when one choice is dependent on the earlier choices, in that case we use hierarchical choice models. Then we said that in certain cases we are unable to observe the value of the dependent variable while having the values of an explanatory variable being available. That are the sunset models case. In that case we use a Tobit model, and sometimes we have both the dependent and independent variables values being not available for all data or sample. In that case we use truncated sample regression models. We also finally discussed the count data model. I hope you like this overview, and I hope I see you for the last lecture, which is the overview of the time series data. So I hope I see you for the last or final lecture of this course, and I hope you have a good learning session. Thank you very much. Please do subscribe our channel.